Hello, welcome to the next episode of the Joe Martin Show. Today I'm here with Pillowsnake. So can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jacob LaFollette, aka Pillowsnake. One person, one word. How you doing? How you doing?
Pretty good. Coming here was really interesting because I don't really travel out to Harlingen. Besides the time I've been to the Mount Suburb, but this place is really nice. This area.
Thank you. It's a nice building, right?
Yeah, it's a really nice building. I love historical buildings, and the fact that the views you have here is really, really nice.
Yeah, I live kind of high up, and I can probably take a pic soon. I'll send it to you just to see. Cause I can post my view. Every once in a while I'll be like, oh, I love this view. Yeah, it's something I really appreciate. So yeah, and I'm glad that I get to show it to people.
Whenever they come over.
Yeah, whenever they come over, or just people who want to know and want to appreciate the town we're in. So yeah, definitely.
Have you ever used this view ever to enhance your music or get inspiration or no?
Well, I do. It's one of those things where because I'm very weird when I create. So and currently where I'm at, I'm in a transition period. So as far as creating goes, I haven't been on that full-on mindset, but every once in a while I'll look out and I'll be like, okay, this is what I do it for, So and you do see certain things. I mean, what you call it? You do see especially in this area, you'll see people walking down the street. You'll see people driving. You'll see just construction workers working on buildings. I remember a friend of mine was telling me that they were man, living up there is living in a big city. I bet it's living. So yeah, it is, and it is inspiring because you see a little city from a big perspective. So it makes you view other people as little parts of your life. So it is inspiring in that sense where I'm looking at the bigger picture. So and then when I look outside. And I even can go outside and just walk around, and because I live near a lot of antique shops, so you go inside one of those, you'll see a lot of not artifacts, but antiques. And, you'll hear people talk about their life. You'll hear people saying, "Oh, I'm from here, I'm from there," and you learn people, and you especially these older people who have stories or whatever. Even if you're not the stories directed at you, you can take some inspiration. Just absorbing that. And I do believe energy transfers like that. So just being around that type of environment is pretty refreshing. So right now I'm kind of in the transitional phase, where I'm just absorbing because I gotta live a bit in order to create. I can't force it out. And I know I do ramble a lot, so I apologize.
No, but the whole point is to have a conversation. And I always find these conversations just interesting. I was kind of curious, have you ever seen any crazy stuff when you're doing have you ever seen crazy stuff?
So there's a guy that's out here every once in a while, this older bald guy, who every once a week I'll just see him walking down the street shirtless in trunks in his underwear. Yeah, I'll just be seeing this guy walk around in his underwear, and I remember the other day I saw him because I was in the car, I was on the phone, and I was like, oh my god, because this is the second or third time I saw him, and I was like, oh my god, there he is, and I was thinking, is he gonna come up to me? No, he didn't. He went into a random alley, disappeared.
Oh,
I don't know what the hell.
Yeah,
this is. Because where I live is the good side of I wouldn't say bad side of town, but the crazier side of town. Because I remember, what you call it? I'll be seeing a lot of shady things. I'm not gonna go explicit in them, but just shady enough stuff to be okay.
I think almost anyone in the store the stuff that goes on. Because it's really common to hear gunshots go off, and I'm
they're just funny.
Yeah. And then like goes to the whole thing about like what people consider like that old saying the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah.
When they're like literally like the bad side, the good side of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it like the bad side because, like I said, I don't see it having a bad side. I just see it as like a more like, what you call it? I wouldn't say run down either. I would just say like something.
Just say shady, I guess.
I mean, it's, you know, survival is of the essence. So, you know, some people when they have to survive, they gotta like, you know, do what they can. And, you know, I'm not justifying that behavior, but at the same time, like, yeah, that's another conversation, you know, I can get into. That'd be a freaking 2-hour course on
Yeah, I think so.
my political discourse, right?
Yeah. And what about like, well, going on to your music,
Yeah.
you mentioned you're going through like a whole transitional thing. What would you consider your music as of right now? Like, what would it be considered? Because it's very experimental.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now, like what I've been making, because I've been trying to like really get good at guitar. Like, because you've seen me like every once in a while play, so. And I'm decent, you know. I'm not good. I'm good enough, you know. But I really am trying to like really get into it and, you know, like get good at it and like learning how to like really play. And you know, I mean, there's like YouTubers. I'll be on YouTube and Instagram and whatnot. I'll see these like guitarists and they're like kids, you know, and they're like doing these sweep picking, you know, pedio bullshit. And you know, I've never been like crazy into it, but like I'm just trying my best to learn from that, you know. So like some of my music is more, it's not so shreddy, but it's more like informed, you know. Because I think that like learning things that are not full on like, not full on your style, but out of your comfort zone, really can like bring you to a different path. And it makes like other things clearer, you know. Because like. I mean, I know very basic like music theory.
Yeah.
But like just enough to be like, okay, this is like in this key, and this is like, oh, this is like a minor, there's a seventh, whatever. Not like once it gets into like augmented bullshit, I don't fucking know. But you know, like I know I'm trying to get that information from it, and you know, like thing is with like experimental artists and whatnot. What I noticed is that like I saw this on a thread a long time ago, like back when I was like on Facebook. I was in a lot of Facebook music groups, and you know they would say that like a lot of the emphasis isn't so much on the music itself; it's on the texture of the sounds. You know, and a lot of these experimental like producers and whatnot, electronic producers are focused on that. You know, they'll be making like the same like notes, but they'll be focusing on like the textures. So like. I've been trying to like get into that mindset, you know, of composing, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, probably this is a very weird influence, but I think my biggest influence right now is Koji Kondo.
Girls?
Yeah, right now, because like I'll be like playing like Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Koji Kondo's like a very prolific Nintendo producer.
Yeah, like I think Koji Kondo's probably like my big of now, and I'll be like watching a lot of like analysis of like his Mario stuff and his Zelda stuff, and all that stuff, and it's real like.
It's really interesting.
And like it's crazy because the same thing, texture, you know, and like how he recontextualizes certain things. Because like I even noticed that like in 64 in Super Mario 64, like you know the bomb on Battlefield, that song, and the snow theme,
it's the same song, so
it's the same song.
But like one has like a more Christmas theme.
Yeah, it's the same chords, it's the same. It's very similar. And you know, I was like thinking to myself, like, dang, you really recontextualize it to something else. And you know, it won't translate to what I'm doing because like what I'm doing is way different from that.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm trying to get into that mindset, you know, of like, okay, this is how to do it, you know, and this is another way to do it, you know. And I think right now, I'm not listening to like a full ton of music right now, but like Koji Kondo is probably like
The biggest influence.
my big influence right now. Him and maybe like it's another one. Because my car's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So like I'll be like putting it on like the radio. When I don't know why I just started listening to like 94.5 again just because like. And like I listened to it, and you know, it hasn't really changed since I last listened when I was in high school. And in fact, it's gotten even more classic rock.
Oh yeah.
Like they're just like in great. I remember when I would listen to it, they would like play like new-ish bands.
Yeah,
like rock.
there was times where they would even play the local bands.
Yeah, they would do like the homegrown show.
Yeah, I think on like Saturday, but they kind of changed that like once it started like getting bought out and like different stuff started going on.
Yeah, now it's just a full-on. Like, welcome to the jungle, freaking.
Yeah, I hope I never meet the person or like kind of my podcast, but like, I was talking with a friend about how Jay Gonzalez bought the studio there.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, from the 84.5 from the Jay Gonzalez studio there, and like sometimes he has his own commercials on it, and like, they take forever. I'm like, I'm not listening to
Yeah,
this.
and then like it's funny because same thing.
Yeah.
I would listen to it and. He'll be on getting interviewed by Rock and Roll James.
Yeah.
And like it'll be a whole like hour of him like, okay, this is our campaign for the best call ever, right?
Yeah.
This is your best call ever because you're gonna get a good settlement, like. And you know, no disrespect for him.
I think he's gonna redo up and like he's like spotting different new buildings in the valley.
Yeah, there's one over here, like in Miami, in my window, and like. This building has the biggest American flag I've ever seen in my fucking life. I can see it from here. It's huge.
Just when it was like the two the giant flag.
It is the biggest flag I've ever seen in my life. Like,
probably just a picture or something.
You can see that shit from the moon type of shit.
Yeah. But I mean, he's doing something right, because I mean.
Yeah, I have no.
Yeah, for me, it's just like I sometimes look at it and I'm like, come on, like, put on the music. But again, it's because of the changes in technology. And right now, we're just Spotify or SoundCloud or anything like that. We're just put the music and that's it.
Yeah, no one really listens to it, but you know, I listen to it because, like, yeah, like I said, like I'll sometimes because when I'm driving right now, like there's an aux cord and all that, and there's Bluetooth, but sometimes I'm just like, you know, I don't feel like setting up. I'm just gonna listen to it. So, you know, I'll just listen to it and I'll be like, oh, and then I listen to stuff that I heard when I was like a kid. You know, like I listen to like. You know, all that classic rock, all that. It's funny because like they have like a big I always hear freaking Van Halen and I always hear Nirvana.
Yeah.
And like I would say that like my biggest influence, you know, like not right now, not of all time, but like I've just been really into Kurt Cobain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I've always been into him, but like I don't know, like because I'm 27, so like I'm the 80 guy.
Yeah.
You know, so like. I'll think about that, you know, and I'll think about like how, you know, he had that big experience of, you know, mass fame and, you know, being in the right place at the right time. But is that what he really wanted, you know, type of shit? You know, everything he ever wanted and was working for, he got, and, you know, things like that. You know, I'll listen to him and like, you know, his music doesn't really reflect that. I mean, In Utero kind of does.
Yeah.
Like, kind of. Because like it's more that first song where he's like teenage angst has paid off well, now I'm bored and old, like, you know, that really hits. You know, I'll listen to that and then I'll listen to like a lot of deep cuts and,
yeah,
you know, it's funny, like I remember when I watched the Batman movie. That was the last movie I saw in theaters.
Oh, yeah.
That was the last movie I saw in theaters. So, and they would play that Something in the Way song like throughout the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like it's weird because that's a song about living under a bridge and like being homeless. And Matt Reeves, the guy who directed the Batman, heard it and was like, "This is Batman to me." Like
it kind of works like how Gotham's like really shady or it's like sinister.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense. I'm like, I think it got like overblown. Like it got overused by that because of the film.
Yeah, and you know it's a good song. And
yeah,
you know. I mean, I always like that song. I always say because I've always been relevant in Nirvana. And you know, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, you heard this from TikTok. Oh, you heard this from a movie. I don't know. Because like, if you heard it, you heard it. You know. Because like I'd be a hypocrite because you know I got a lot of my music from video games. I got all my music from movies and things like that. So like, what you call it? I'm not gonna like get mad at someone for that.
Yeah, they do the called gatekeepers.
Yeah, there's no reason to be a gatekeeper. Anyway, yeah, going back to it, I even think about like how Matt Reeves like listened to that and got that from it. And I'm like, oh, you know, you can like, even though you don't relate full on, you can like get that experience, you know, and see like the emotion from it and whatnot. And it's simple as hell, you know. So like Koji Kondo and Kurt Cobain for some reason are my two big guys right now. I mean, I listen to a lot. I mean, my favorite band. Like my favorite band of all time is probably Typo Negative. Yeah, Peter Steele is like my god, you know, in a sense, you know, like he's pretty much like the reason why. I mean, my music don't sound like him, and like you know.
What specifically did you get out of him?
Well, he was very intelligent, and he knew how to like fuck with people, and you know, a lot of people put them in the goth category because he was massive and did the vampire persona and had long black hair and whatnot and pale skin and he like put on fangs and shit. But you know, it's more than just that, you know, especially like their first album is like a freaking like a thrash industrial album, the Slow Deep and Hard album. And then their second album, the one with like all the ones everyone knows, you know, Black Number One and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's not just God, like there's like full on like psychedelic pop elements to it and you know thrash elements and you know you put it all in a blender. And I even like his earlier band Carnivore. I don't know if you ever heard that.
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, they were really good. They were a real good like crossover thrash band, you know, like hardcore punk mixed with thrash metal. Very politically incorrect, like very politically incorrect. You could not make that music today because a lot of their titles are like full on just being edgy.
Oh, okay.
Like very, very edgy titles about, you know, fuck you type of shit. And
yeah, it was a whole rebellious.
you know, and you know, it's the time period, but yeah, I really enjoyed Peter Steele and his outlook on life as well, and his the way he played too. Like he was a fucking good bassist. He was a very good arranger, and you know, a lot of people don't know this, but like the Type O Negative albums, everything after Bloody Kisses, like so like 3 or 4 albums up until their last album, they used programmed drums. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So like the Bloody Kisses album and not Bloody Kisses, the October Rust album, the one with like the My Girlfriend's that album. They use like programmed drums and like, you know, you don't notice it at first, but then like once you hear it, you're like, oh, yep, yeah, you can hear it, but you know, it shows like, I know that wasn't Peter, that was the rest of the band that did it, but you know, it really like, gave me that perspective, like, oh damn, like, you know, that's one of my favorite records, October Rust, and it's such a like dense album, and so like, shoegazy psychedelic, but like its own thing, you know. I want to put it on the category of like with like other bands, you know. And you know, I see that in me, you know. I see that like you can't pigeonhole certain people, and people will try either way. People will fucking try, and they do it with Peter Steele because, like I said, his physical appearance and things like that.
Yeah, I think people try to do that because like you have to have some kind of like marketability, like who would you compare yourselves to? So it's like instead like. When it comes to, before I was like when a wall you're drawing me, but I think more now it's better to say what bands like would you compare yourself to in terms of sound? I think that's easier compared to.
I mean, with me, I always get the Garden comparisons. I always get the Death Grips comparisons. I've heard Jimi Hendrix, like I'm like, I guess. I mean, I love Hendrix. Like Hendrix is like like one of my favorite guitarists. And I do see it because, like, you know, I improv a lot. You know, even though I program everything, I program it a lot of stuff where I'm like, okay, I know how I'm gonna start it and how I'm gonna end it. Gotta figure out the rest, you know. And you know, it really creates new things, you know. And I'm really into like improv in that sense, like. But that's the thing, you gotta be good at improv, you know.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like I even saw a video on it where a guy was like, you gotta play what you feel, you know. You gotta play what you feel. That's the thing. If you don't know what to feel, if you don't know the vocabulary to express your feelings, what the hell's the point, you know? And I think once you know the vocabulary and you learn like your ABCs in a sense, you can, you know, start talking, you know?
Yeah, basically like learning your vocabulary to start building sentences, basically, yeah.
So I get a lot of like inspiration from like stand-up comedians, you know how they do it? Where they're like, they'll tell a joke, but like they never tell it the same way twice because you know they have to read the room. You know,
they have a cadence and all
they have a cadence they have to follow in order to like address everything. And you know, there's hecklers and there's other environments, even like the way that like the mic sounds. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, it's one of those things. It's very inspiring because I think of myself like, because like when you're on stage, you can see yourself as that. Or you can see yourself as, okay, I'm going to play every perfect note. I'm going to play every... No, I can't. I think that's kind of like, you know, it's not me. I'm not saying, no disrespect to people who do, you know, because like there's things that are absolutely called for in that sense. You know, there are like genres where you need to do that. You know, you can't just do a fucking 18-minute intro, you know?
Yeah.
You gotta like be exactly precise to like the millisecond. But what I'm doing is kind of more freeform in that sense. Even though it's like I say, it's programmed, but I program it so I can be like, okay, here to here, you know. And I view my music like linear, you know. I view it like a line going up and down pretty much. And that's the thing, like with like writing for me, it's a lot of that, you know. It's a lot of like figuring out where to put everything, and you can write something, and this is something like. I recently like came to terms with. I'm like, not everything you do is gonna fucking sound good, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
And like, you know, once I like did that, once I got through my head, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna be freaking making stuff that is 100% me all the time.
So, yeah, because these people get stuck with the whole like perfectionist mentality.
Yeah.
You want to keep making it better, but sometimes it's just release it and do it.
So and you don't even have to release it. That's the thing. You can just be like, okay, you could suck in private, you know. And that's the thing though. Like with the way that like a lot of these like, I mean, this is more like with rap. This is more like how rappers are. Like you know, they'll make albums that are like 30 tracks, and they'll release like one every couple months. You know. Not every track's going to be your best. It's just going to be something that's churned out and grinded out. And you know, no disrespect to people who grind. It's like I have a lot of respect for people who can like get up in the morning, do 6 songs, go on with the day.
Yeah.
Shoot, that's just something. That's a dedication. Or make like 5 beats a day type of shit.
So what would be your process?
It really depends. I mean, my process is, lately my process has been figuring out like a drum sound, and I'll figure out like, I'll be using loops. I don't care. I'll be on. I use BandLab, by the way, which is like my dog choice because. It's free, it's cheap, and you know I have nothing against like people who use Ableton or stuff like that. It's not for me, you know.
Yeah.
And what you call it? My process is figuring out the drums and figuring out like a melody, and because I know all the instrumentation should come last for me because. If it sounds good on one thing, it should sound good on another, you know? It's just figuring out like the best ingredients for it, you got me? So, and I've been trying to keep it simple. I've been trying to keep it like, okay, 1, 2, 3 chords. Everything else will fall into place eventually. And I'll even like be playing guitar and I'll be like figuring out like, okay, I wrote this, let me program this in. let me like type it out into like the synth, you know, and figure it out, and you know, what can I do with that? So my process is a lot of trial and error, because that's how it should be. Most processes are trial and error, and figuring out what works, and you know, you can be like going more streamlined theory approach where you're like, okay, I'm trying to write something sad, let's do something sad. I mean, I'm not like that. I'm more like, okay, this is the sound. How can I fit this sound into something else, you know? And what should I base this sound off of, you know? And that's my problem with a lot of it, is because like I have to be mentally like in a mood to record vocals, you know? And that's probably my hardest thing to get right for me, you know? Because it's a lot of like cadence, a lot of figuring out what I'm gonna say, a lot of figuring out how I'm gonna say it, and how much to say, you know? And I'll be like trying to be like, okay, I'm gonna do one take, and I'm like, okay, what if I put like 5 like overdubs of me doing freaking harmonies, like go all Alice in Chains and do the freaking like the major, like their harmonies or some shit. But yeah, it's that's the part I'm like, okay, I need to figure out, like, you know, that's probably the part that it's both probably the most fun to do live, but the hardest to master in the studio or when recording or writing, because I feel like, especially a lot of music that has vocals, you know, that's the one thing people latch onto is the vocals. No matter how good the instrumental is, you know, people are gonna like listen to vocals. A lot of times they're gonna focus on the vocals because it's in a language that is understandable and clear. So it's trying to figure it all out. So my process is trial and error, just figuring out how to get a message out, what to say, how to say it, when to say it, how much to say. You know, you can quantify it like that, but at the same time, I'm like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I do use samples. And you know, I'll even listen to something from like a movie, and I'll be like, oh.
I remember you were using one of the thing from The Sopranos, right?
Yeah. I do stuff like that, and yeah. I mean, there's a track I'm working on that samples. You know the movie Animal House?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that samples that, and you know that's a comedy, and like I turned it into like a freaking a dark song about schizophrenia. It's a very hard like rap song, you know, and you know, it's recontextualizing things. You know, you listen to something and be like, oh, that's a cool line, or like I'll even like watch a movie, and it's not even like sampling it. It's like just okay, like that's something I want to do, but like the music version of, you know.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because there's always been like I see clips of on YouTube where people get like, let's say a comedy movie, and they try to make it like a horror film.
Yeah.
And then we can like,
yeah, where it's just music. It's the music that drives the movie, you know? And or like when they get like a horror movie opposite, they put like circus music, the type of shit.
Yeah, try to make it into a comedy.
Yeah, they like Hereditary with like with like clown music.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I like that movie. I haven't seen it in a while. I mean, I kind of got burned out with that movie because I watched it too many times. So.
I think it's like 2 or 3 things. So for sure, like I said, when it came on theaters, because my friend loves like psychological horror films, and so like, oh, we got to see it. I'm like, fine, whatever. Yeah, it was.
No, that's a genuine masterpiece, and
yeah.
But you know, I've seen it too many times, so like. I laugh too much, like
especially like the end of the
that whole ending sequence, I fucking laugh. I mean, at first I was like, oh god, you know, but like I've seen it enough where like, especially the part when she has the piano wire and she's like with her neck, and you hear the freaking and then you hear them. I don't know why. It's I don't know. I have a very like interesting set of humor.
Yeah, it was become desensitized to like violence. Like if you keep watching it over and over and over.
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually it becomes like, oh my god. Like,
it's like, and you know, at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff is, you know, it's a show. You know,
Yeah.
it's
just a movie.
it's performance. So, and you know, this is all like directed too. So it's all like staged to like, okay, it was this amount of blood, and you're gonna do it for this long type. So you know, I mean, because like violence is like, and you know, like real violence is another completely different thing, and and that's harder to recreate. And I don't think anyone should really recreate that because it's not pretty, you know.
No, yeah, definitely. Some people like, especially when you watch like a Tarantino film.
Oh
the
yeah.
violence is like over the top, so like you know it's fake.
No, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And you know, he even says it because it's so much fun. That's why I like to do it. You know.
Yeah.
You know, the older I get, the more I'm like, okay, I understand. Like, okay, maybe certain people shouldn't see this. You know, but at the same time, I'm like, it is entertainment, and you know. It'd be hypocritical because people, I mean, think about the freaking Romans, the Colosseum.
Yeah, there was fights.
The fights and lions and shit, and they're.
Yeah, everything is basically just computer graphics.
Yeah, and this is the safer alternative to that, you know?
Yeah, because like I think people should express these like aggressive emotions because if not, you eventually explode.
Yeah, it makes sense, and you know, there's an outlet for everything, and whether it's anger, sadness, even happiness, you know, and what you call it. Yeah, and I feel like violence like that in movies, especially when it has a purpose, can be very purposeful, you know. Whether it's to show like intensity or to show humor, you know, just of the absurdity of it all. Because like you see those real gory movies, you know, from like real like splatter films where it's like, oh god, this is so.
Yeah, like you go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, like freaking. Like Dead Alive type of stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the worst films I seen was a movie called Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah, that one, and then my friend showed me another one that I can't remember.
The only thing with that one is the
turtle scene.
No, yeah, the animal.
Yeah,
the deaths were real for the animals, which you know, personally I'm not very.
Yeah, but it's really real. Like, for people who watch it, like, I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't just unless you're like someone who's really into gore and all that stuff. Like
yeah.
Then yeah, but like if you're like a normie or a regular person, don't.
Good date movie right here. Good date movie.
Yeah, because it was that one, and then again, it's because I have this crazy. Oh, I had this crazy dude. He was always showing like the craziest films. The other one was
like a Serbian film.
Yeah, Serbian.
I knew it. I hate that movie.
I hate it. Yeah.
That movie
actually fell asleep. Because we usually have like sleepovers with me and my friends, and then I remember sitting there like, man, it's so boring, so like I fell asleep halfway through it.
It's funny because I saw that movie on sleepover too.
Yeah, and I woke up and I was like towards the end, I'm like, oh shit, what happened here?
And you know, like because like a lot of times I've seen the parts, you know, the parts, and like I know the part with I'm not really going into detail, but you know the part.
Yeah.
Like they don't really show it; they imply it more so.
Yeah, and it's what makes it worse because I think even what's his name, I can't remember the director's name, the one with the birds. What's his name? I can't remember.
Hitchcock.
Yeah. That it was like when you show like the like rather than showing like the actual stuff, it's worse when it's implied.
No, it's implied. Yeah, and yeah, it's a fucked up situation. And you know, I understand. I always hear people, oh, it has to do with like. This is what happened in Serbia, and this is like political commentary. You know, you can say that, but it's not a good movie, you know? It's not.
Yeah, it's more of a, I consider it more like a political statement rather than.
Yeah, and you know, I can see it as that, but at the same time, it just gets too, like, you know, it's real, like, try hard and too edgy for me, you know? And, you know, Cannibal Holocaust is different, though, in a sense where it's like, where that's not trying to like be political. It's just more like
it's lost in the forest.
Yeah, it's just like it's just a story, and you know, Serbian film is just like you said. Like I saw it on a sleepover too.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, let's watch this fucking gory movie," blah blah blah. And like I said, like I think I can't remember if I left or if I fell asleep.
Yeah.
But I just remember like the way it was shot was like. I don't know, like it just seemed like how a movie is, you know how to explain it?
Yeah.
It was like, it's not my type of.
There was another movie so that bored me and some people are getting mad, but The Witch.
You didn't like The Witch? I mean,
it was so beautiful, like it was beautifully shot, I think, man.
That's a movie you gotta watch with subtitles.
Yeah.
And you know, I do like that director, Robert Eggers, and I do like Anya Taylor-Joy, and you know, like a lot of people like will quote like, "Down, we live deliciously," you know.
Yeah.
And it is a good movie.
It is a good movie, but like for me, like, I guess because I was tired and it's a really slow burn.
No, I get it.
It's not like.
No, I'm an old man too, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think one of the first, because like I love horror films, but like I guess there's one like certain genres that are really interesting. Like if it's some psychological, some spiritual, like you know, those supernatural gifts.
Yeah.
But there's some of those where I'm like, like where it's because one of my friends, like he keeps showing me so many of his favorites, and it always keeps up like, oh, the actual monster was us, or the actual monster was, or the actual monster was depression. And I'm like, I understand like this, some people have like mental stabilities, which it is a horror that the U.S. faces, but like after a while, like you know what, I want to see like some demon come out of nowhere and still be cool.
I mean, my favorite horror movie of all time is probably Texas Chainsaw, the original.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can consider that one a political statement too, because it's about like, you know, a family that's lost to time because of, you know, industrialization. Because they're a family that like kills like cows, you know.
Yeah.
And like they got taken over by like that industry, so they just said, "Fuck it, we're gonna eat people."
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's another movie that's like, you know, it's more implied than anything also.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like when you watch it, there's not a lot of gore in that movie. There isn't. But they call it like one of the scariest movies ever made, you know, and in a sense it is. But, you know, it's one of my favorites, and you know, I hate that one character, the fucking guy in the wheelchair.
Oh yeah.
The one that's like, "Oh boo-hoo, what? Everyone leaves old poor Franklin behind." And then like you're just like, shut the fuck up, you know?
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean that means actor's work, like his job's being accomplished.
I know. I'm like, God, I like that movie. And I'm like, and then you see him against. I think he's the one that like they actually show him like get like cut up, you know. And then they show like the hitchhiker cut him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. It's one of my favorite. Probably is my favorite. But yeah, that's part. Yeah, like I'll be watching stuff like that, and it does inform like my heart in a sense, you know, because of it. And like I like a lot of soundtracks.
Oh, yeah.
I like a lot of, you know, even Texas Chainsaw has a good soundtrack, even though it's more like type of stuff, you know.
Yeah, the engine is actually really interesting. It's like a giant metal thing that.
Yeah, it's supposed to like.
I think it's kind of like a water form or something.
It's supposed to like give you the impression of a fence, you know, and a slaughterhouse. You know, that's what they said. They were trying to make it feel like a slaughterhouse, where you're like a chicken or like a pig, or just like hearing the gates open.
Yeah.
And you know. That's really cool.
It's true.
That's a real.
And for whatever reason, it really works because like now it's like a super like overused thing. Like anything that you watch like Shark Tank or like Gordon Ramsay, like the thing like.
Oh yeah.
Like what did you do?
Dun 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 dun.
But yeah, like whenever like there's the pitch, like there's like that.
My God, it's like I got a pitch for you today, and then you see freaking Kevin O'Leary like.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you an offer. I'm gonna. You're giving me 100%, and I'll give you a royalty of.
Yeah, he's always with the royalties. I've been bitching that like I saw on YouTube for whatever reason, like on YouTube Shorts, it's been showing up a lot.
Oh God. Royal. And like, you know, I'll be there. I'm trying to do the math. I'm like, man, you're gonna make nothing.
Yeah.
You're gonna make, and like, you know, I had my Shark Tank phase, and you know, when I would watch it. And You know, I do like Mark Cuban, even though billionaires in general, they have like a ethical problem with it. But like amongst like the people there, I feel like
he's the most fairest.
He's not the fairest. He's just like the one with like with the biggest head on his shoulders. You get me?
Yeah.
It's like Cameron O'Leary's a fraud. You know, like he fronts a lot. You know, and like I'll even see the YouTube shorts too, where he's like. It's always one that was like, why would I pay $2 for coffee? I pay 30 cents because I make it at home. I take the rest of the money and I invest it. I'm like, bro, where the fuck you finding $2 coffee? I want to go there.
Yeah.
It's like coffee. I make coffee for a living, and like it is not fucking $2. Like maybe if you get like the small of like a black coffee and stripes, you know.
Yeah, then it's maybe.
Or like McDonald's, but like where the hell? Obviously it was like an older video, but still I'm like, and like I hate that mentality. Like okay, I'm better than you. You want to be better? You want to be good? Subscribe to my 8-week program. You know?
Oh yeah.
You go to Hustler University, the Andrew Tate bullshit.
No, yeah, it's been a lot of like that fraud.
Yeah, it's just a fucking scam, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they make their money off of these fronts, you know.
Yeah.
Of being a fraud. And like you said, like they're using like the sounds to make them sound crazy in Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Sound like sharks, you know. And I remember when I was a kid and that show came out, I thought I had to do something with sharks, and I was fucking mad. You know? I was like, okay, are they gonna like swim in sharks or something?
Yeah, that's like the whole thing about shark films.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is boring business stuff, because when you're a kid, you're watching it. And it's on freaking ABC, so you're like, boring. It would come on like right before the news, and like my mom was like real into the news, so I'd like catch a little bit of it, and I'd be like, okay. And then as an adult, I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
And then no one picks it, you know.
Yeah, there's been a couple of good ideas. I think one of the more famous ones that I've seen a lot lately was the Scrub Daddy.
Oh yeah, I love Scrub Daddies.
You do?
I think I have one in my note.
I just find it interesting like how like it could become a different texture depending on the temperature of water.
Or what's the one the freaking the camera on the doors?
Oh, Ring.
Yeah, the Ring, because that was on Shark Tank.
Yeah,
they got rejected. Yeah.
Yeah, like a prototype type thing, and then they got bought.
And Amazon bought it out. And yeah, I think that was a cool one. And what you call it, Carvana.
Oh yeah,
that's another Mark Cuban one.
Yeah, because it was really into like the whole tech stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Mark Cuban is like one of those people. I'm like, okay. I guess you get a pass because you're smart, you know?
Yeah,
he's not like full of shit, and I'm not gonna defend him or nothing, but
I go in the way because like, when they realize like the scam, he's like the first one to call it out.
Yeah, he's definitely, you're a con artist, right?
Yeah, because there's like some pyramid schemes that go on, like, wait, what? And then like the first one, like, oh, no.
You're a con artist, and I saw that like, I remember, because when I was in college, I was taking marketing, because my minor was business administration, so I had to take business classes. And I remember I saw one where it showed he was working at a Dairy Queen because he had like a stake in Dairy Queen. And he wanted to know how it like felt to work as an employee, and it showed him in the freaking hat. He's a tall guy too, so I'm like, how the fuck you find on that fit,
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, he kind of knows how it is, but at the same time, like I've worked fast food, so like I know how it really is, and it's not like a good environment to be in, but so is being in freaking corporate Wall Street. I feel like those environments are real, like.
I'm pretty sure it's high stress because you have to.
Yeah, and like, I see like those Wolf of Wall Street type of things where, they're,
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, because the thing like once you get to a certain area, like you're high finance or high office, like you need to be constantly performing.
Mm-hmm.
So people like launch like different Adderalls and other drugs.
Oh yeah.
Even with journalists, I mean, I see that happen where like certain journalists they start doing drugs because they have to like work overnight and do something.
And I mean, I'm proud to be like I'm proud to be sober.
Mm-hmm.
I've been sober since like last year. Not because not because of health reasons or ethical reasons. It's just not me, you know. It's like I did my drinking and my smoking. Yeah, I'm done with it, you know. And you know, I'm glad to be like not needing that, you know.
Yeah.
Even though I do drink coffee a lot and caffeine,
Yeah.
but you know that's I feel like that's different, you know.
Yeah.
Because caffeine is more like it is a drug in a sense, but you know. It's not nicotine, you know.
At what point did you start saying, "Hey, I want to do some work"? What got you to that point?
You know, I mean, well, I haven't smoked a cigarette in like 5 years, and there was like 2 years of my life where I was smoking at least like 4 or 5 cigarettes a day, and you know, I never got like addicted to them. It was just more like, I'm not gonna do this anymore, and I quit it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, some people don't get to do that, you know? And like, luckily I was like, I don't know, like I just stopped and, you know, I chewed some gum for, I mean, not nicotine gum, but just gum, because like, it's the oral fixation, you know? And, you know, I'll meet people every once in a while, they'll be like, you make music like that, and you're not on drugs? Like, what the fuck do you mean by that? I'm like,
yeah, because I think people have the common misconception that like you have to be on drugs.
Yeah,
The whole rockstar lifestyle.
Yeah, and like I'll ask, like people ask me stuff like that. They'll be like, "Oh, you've never done this, you've never done that." I'm like, "No." He's like, "What? But you make music like that? How do you do it?" I open up my studio and I make the sounds, but you know, because like. I mean, I understand like how they can help out some people, but it's just not for me, you know. And like, no disrespect to people who do it, you know. It's just
a different lifestyle.
Just a different lifestyle. And I mean, I'm proud to be living the lifestyle I do. I'm proud to be drinking water, you know. And I had coffee before this, but that's just because I wake up at like 3 a.m. So I took a nap, you know. I mean, for my job, I wake up very early, but you know, I don't mind it. But yeah, I'm proud to not need it. I mean, I had like half a glass of wine on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, but that was like
the whole social aspect of it.
Yeah, but yeah, like as far as like leading it to be creative, like I don't.
Did your music ever change between before you became sober compared to being sober?
Not that much, to be honest. It was just more like something that was like okay, like something I did because it was nothing crazy. It was just more like a beer night, like a tall boy night type of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a pack a day or like you know, and it was like limited to just like cigarettes and drinking. You know, it wasn't like anything more. It wasn't, and thank God it wasn't anything more, because I've seen people where they have like hardcore addictions, and you know, and it's crazy because like there are people you meet that you'll never fucking guess are like really into that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how they hide it well, and what you call it. It's you know, I'm glad I was never like I'm glad I was never like I was never involved in any of that, you know. And I've seen like people change because of it, you know.
Yeah, I see people become like a shell of their former self.
Yeah,
it's scary.
It's scary, you know, like it causes health problems too, like certain things, and yeah, it's just not for me. And you know, as far as like art changing because of it, I don't really see that much. It's just more like my mental state in a sense, you know. And a lot of times it was just like to relax, you know. And, you know, I've been real into meditation since I was like in high school, but like on and off again, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not for spiritual reasons; it's for more like relaxing reasons, you know. So you know, I'm trying my best to like do like the natural thing, and it's semi-successful. And you know, a big part of it is looking after your mental health and saying no to things, and learning to say no, learning to listen. Because I do know that a lot of that stuff is a mask, you know, a lot of it's just like a band-aid for a bigger problem. So,
What do you mean?
as far as like drinking, like pills and things like that, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And like when you go to the doctor and you're like, I'm sad, here's 10 Xanax, don't take them all at once. You're like,
Yeah, it's even worse.
they're like,
Yeah, just the thing is, that's like the easy solution nowadays, right? Just give pills and they'll take care of your issues.
yeah, and you
Not really.
know, yeah, and I'm not, you know, I've had family members that, you know, have succumbed to those type of things, you know. You know, when you see a family member go through it, you know it's in you, you know, so.
Yeah, I've seen people like start like refusing like painkillers because they're like, no, like the addiction that comes with it is just.
No, yeah, and a lot of times, like, that's all they prescribe too, so like, it's either that or an illegal substance, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously, because you're in a position where you're just in this unbearable pain, you're gonna have to pick that, you know. And they do hook you because of it, and you know, it's no secret, you know. And it's you know, I try my best not to succumb to it, and you know, thank God I've never been in a situation where I have to rely on any of that.
Yeah.
The most is like, okay, minor tooth pain, you know.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I got cut.
Yeah.
You know.
The worst that are like allergies or headaches.
Yeah, I got a headache that Tylenol can't take care of. There's extra strength Tylenol. Okay.
Yeah.
Why can't I just take 4 of these and like 4 regular, it'd be the same amount, you know? So with 1000 milligrams or something.
Yeah. It's.
1000 milligram type of pills, but yeah. And you know, people who are, you know, sober and, you know, that live their life their way, you know, congrats. I mean, I have nothing against anyone, you know, as long as it's not affecting others, you know.
Yeah.
Some people, like, once they, like, even sober, like, when they push it down people's throat, or, like, when their addictions just take over them, where they, like, become, negative around other people, especially the ones they care about, you know. As long as no one's getting hurt, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Basically, yeah, once you're not causing other issues, that's when it's okay, but like, once you start causing issues, then it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, it's one of those things that's like, it is a slippery slope, but, you know, regulating and figuring out, like, okay, I need to not do this, you know?
Yeah. And that's what people say, that's when like an addiction becomes an actual problem. Like, once it starts like affecting your life and others, then that's when you're like, okay, you really need to change things or get worse.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, that's all I gotta say about that. Because if you want to talk about that, like, I think you should talk about someone who's really recovering, honestly, or like has an expert on this. That's just my like.
But basically, your experience with it from what you see, basically, right?
From what I've seen, you know, I'm not an expert. I'm just someone who's seen, you know, it firsthand with people. I haven't experienced it firsthand. Just witnessed it, you know, so yeah, you should talk to an expert if anything, you know.
Well, it's not my podcast.
Yeah. It's Dr. Drew.
Yeah.
Next, Dr. Drew.
It's a random doctor from the streets. Like, hey, what's your opinion on the heroin addiction going on?
Yeah.
Fentanyl.
It's like Dr. Fauci up next. Yeah.
And so, like, what is your goal? I guess, what would be your, like, moving on forward,
Yeah.
what is your goals with your music right now? What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, I was actually thinking about that today. Where, like, what do you measure success as an artist? You measure it by, like, the amount of streams you have, the amount of people who support you, how you feel about what you make. You could see it, like, from a lot of those different perspectives. And at the end of the day, like, I feel like my main goal with what I'm making right now currently is, one, I have something I'm satisfied with, and 2, I have something, it doesn't have to even be relatable to another person, But if I have the respect from others in a sense, where it's like, okay, I remember when I first talked to you, you said that like you didn't understand my music.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, the reason why I said that is because I think some people just say like, oh yeah, like there's people who are just people who are saying like, oh yeah, it's good, it's good. No, you should tell people like this.
I respect that, and that's like one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk to you. It's like you were like flat out. I'm like, wow, I've never had actually anyone tell. I mean, some people have told me this to my face, but negatively.
Yeah, no, for me it was just like, what are you trying to do? Like,
yeah, and like that's a really freaking got me thinking. I'm like, yeah, what am I trying to do? And I feel like like not just you, obviously. I feel like some people do, try to get it. I don't think it's so much trying to get it, but because a lot of the stuff I try to make, like I do put like a lot of emphasis on lyrics and stuff like that. But I feel like with a lot of music, at least. You gotta, there's like the first reaction, and there's like the fucking 5th and 10th reaction, where like you start really hearing it, and some people who make music, only want that first reaction, listen to my stuff, okay, I have this many streams because, if 1 million people follow me, I have 1 million streams, they only hear it once, but if you have like 10,000 people listen to it, like 100 times, it's the same amount of streams, or the same amount of people who enjoy it, And obviously I don't have that type of numbers, I'm the wrong person you should ask about that. But yeah, I feel like as long as people know that like it's not just something else, it's not just disposable, I feel like I'm successful with it. And I feel like if I'm personally enjoying what I like, because some people will just put out anything. They're like, I made this song yesterday, here you go. I made this when I was drunk. I made this 3 a.m. last night.
Yeah.
Like I'll even see like the videos, like the TikToks or whatever, where they're like, when you listen to the beat you made at 3 a.m. all faded in the morning, and it's like freaking fucking clown music, and you gotta treat it. You gotta treat it like with the same respect that you would treat music you like, you listen to, and I try to figure out stuff that, okay, how can I make something I could put up with something else I like, and it's not going to be 100%, especially because like I work very lo-fi, low fidelity, and I work very like DIY. It's not like a big budget production, but you don't really need a big budget to express it, and I feel like the limitations do drive it, And I'm one of those people. Once I have too many options, it's too much,
Yeah, people say like the whole thing about limitation drives creativity.
No, it does, and that's why they say that like, how come when bands get real successful, get all these resources, get all the money, get all the budget in the world, they turn out albums that are shit, or not shit, but like not as good as what they made when they were hungry, quote unquote hungry, and I wanted to use this as an example, but like, he's not very like, not a good person to bring up anymore. I was gonna say Kanye West, how he record, like when he recorded My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which they called his like best album or whatever. He was holed up in Hawaii. He was like telling people, don't bring your phones. I just want the best of the best to come in, workshop it. I'm gonna pick out the best type of stuff. And those type of limitations were like, okay, we're gonna cram all this into one area. I mean, you could do it on a big budget with limitations, but you gotta be creative with it, I mean, my creativity comes from the fact I'm a cheap bastard, So, but yeah, I mean, like, I've seen people make gold with less, and I've seen people make gold with more, you know. And it's just how you use the tools, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, as long as I'm able to do that, and as long as I'm able to get people, I don't even understand. I just need them to like be like, okay, I see why people like it, you know. I see the appeal. It's not for me, but I see the appeal, and you know, honestly, that goes a long way. That's more than just like a fake listen. Oh, this is good, you know. Like,
Yeah, some people do that. You can tell when people are doing that.
it's interesting, you know. Like, I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that. It's interesting because like that's the freaking okay.
Yeah.
Hate it. You
Because
know.
like one thing I don't like is when people say, "Oh, this is." And I know it's fake, but they're like, "Oh, they're pushing the boundaries of what music could mean," or like, I'm like,
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
and you know, like, because, like, I'm not gonna, because I don't credit myself. I do like acknowledge, like, okay, I'm trying to sound like this, I'm trying to sound like that, but you just gotta be creative with what you pull from and how you pull it. And I was even like looking at a video about like analyzing Smells Like Teen Spirit, and like, obviously, like they got the chords, or not the chords, but like the rhythm, they got it from like More Than a Feeling from Boston.
Oh.
And you know, or not, it's funny because it doesn't sound like it, but like you kind of hear the dun 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 dun, and then you're More Than a Feeling dun 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 dun. It's like it's not the same notes, but it's the same like rhythm. And then like Dave Grohl said that he got the freaking drum for the opening fill. He got that from the Gap Band, which is like a disco funk group from like the 80s, you know, like Charlie Wilson. And you know, obviously the Pixies, you know, was their big inspiration for like the loud, quiet, loud. So you know, they pulled from all three of those sources, and obviously more sources. And you can say that they ripped them off, or you could say they made it their own, you know, because there's a difference. And you know, when you hear Nirvana, you know it's Nirvana. You know, when you hear certain bands, even when you hear like certain like instruments from certain people, like Eddie Van Halen, you know it's fucking Van Halen when you hear it. You know, you know it's Hendrix when you hear it. You know when it's freaking it's Nirvana when it's Nirvana, you know? So it's like, trying to figure out how to make it your own. And I feel like if you're able to do that successfully, then I think that's pretty cool too. And I think that, you know, some people, especially when they start out, they borrow a little too much, you know? But that's understandable.
Yeah, when you start off, that's just like imitate the people you.
Yeah, and you know, and you should do that, you know, in a sense, because like you gotta learn that like you're not gonna be that, you know, in a sense, you know. It's trial and error.
For me, it'll be like more like technology, like where you reverse engineer stuff like this. You want to learn how it works, and then eventually you start making your own stuff. Build upon that.
Yeah, definitely, and I feel like but it's one thing when you're doing it when you're starting out. It's another thing when you're like making a career out of like ripping off, you know, and you know, which there's a fine line, obviously, and I think especially like people who are just starting out, they should just, you know, not copy, but you know, they should learn everything they like, you know, they should learn everything that their heroes listen to, you know, or like have an understanding of their mindset, you know. And like, you know, reading about the artists, and you know, that's the thing about like living in 2023, because there's so much that you can pull from to see like how people are feeling at all times, you know, for better or for worse, you know. And for better or for worse, you can see that. But yeah, you get to also see like the insight and like the making of, you know, and like get into their head, you know. and then make it one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm gonna reverse engineer it. I'm not gonna full on get into their head, but I'll understand and I'll try to figure out how I can get my own thing, into my head. So I'm able to, like I said before, you gotta learn the vocabulary, you gotta learn the ABCs, and then you gotta learn to speak, And then after you learn to speak, you can write, and you can, make your own things, and you can know, like, what's good and what's bad, And, especially people who are starting out, like, it is daunting,
Yeah.
And, like, and that's the thing, I've like, not suffered with, but, I've, like, noticed, like, especially since, like, after, like, the COVID stuff and all these bands are coming out playing shows again, there's a lot of good bands out here.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
It's a lot.
And a lot of good new bands from, like, bands you never heard, like, before, like, the Blow Up Dolls, ska, bands like that, even, like, Noise Complaint and Blam, they're freaking recent bands, and they're all very good. Like, you can see them and you could be like, I want to see them again, And you could, it is encouraging, but at the same time, you're like, can I be this good, Because, like, especially like a band like ska, they're all in high school.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? And I tell them, like, I talk to Beans all the freaking time, and I tell him, I'm like, bro, you are so lucky that, like, your high school band is so good, because my high school band, like, like, most people's high school band is just like, like, it's a learning experience, but, like, it's crazy when you, like, get it right then and there. And I tell him, like, you gotta, like, hold on to it and don't take it for granted, and know that, like, things are finite, but at the same time, you gotta know that you can learn from those things,
Yeah.
Don't peak. You get me? Like,
yeah, because there's like the biggest like high school bands, whatever like you want to call them, SK or ska, like they're not these days. I would say work with a recipient.
Yeah.
Like, but think about like how many high school bands come out and they don't like get to their point.
Yeah.
Like as soon as something that's started, they didn't even get off the ground, and for them to have their first band start popping off immediately, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane, and what you call it, it's a lot of like, like learning, and you can learn from all that, and you can like figure it all out. But yeah, I tell them, I'm like, bro, y'all just be lucky, but don't take it for granted. And like I was saying, there's a lot of good bands down here, and it does get a little discouraging because like there's so many, and you're like, how can I make this good? They're getting good crowds, they're getting high energy performances, they're sounding good, and like me, I'm solo, so like, and what you call it, there was a show I did at this last house, like a month ago. It was like my first show in like months. It was before that. It was before the Tuna Months show was on. So it was like a week before. And it was packed. It was insanely packed. It was at least 150 people in like a garage. And I remember when I was coming up and like setting up, people were like telling me, "Where's your band?" I'm like, "It's just me." What? Where's the rest of y'all? And I'm like, "You'll see." You'll see. And then like I did it, and it was like one of the best shows I've ever done. And, it was mainly kids. It was mainly like high school kids, and they were freaking jamming, and they were like enjoying it. And they even told me, I'm like, wow, they were inspiring. And I take a lot of that like this. I think inspiring people is like, it was like
it feels good when it feels good when you're going through it. They told you that. And
I've been doing this since 2017. Like I've been doing like Pillowsnake type of stuff since like that time. I mean, not to the full extent I'm doing now. That was another trial and error type of thing where I just, but I tell my friend Eric, who was in I Kill Techno. He's now doing music under the name Crust Fund, and he's a Valley legend in my opinion.
And I tell him, because like when I was starting doing shows, he was the first one that told me, like, okay, you're good. You want to be on these shows, you want to start doing this, mentoring me, helping me out, like, talk to people, helping me, like, learn people. Once I tell him, like, hey man, I want to thank you for doing that for me, because I want to start doing that for other people, because I feel like I need to be doing this, because, you could be all gatekeeper and like old head, say these bands suck, but I can't because they're all very good, So like, I did that show, and I was right before ska, and I was like, I thought I was doing a good show. Then I saw them, and I'm like, wow, this is like I warmed them up, but this is
they're really going up.
Yeah, I warmed them up, and but yeah, it was very encouraging to know that I could, be on that level, and what you call it? Because like, when I was watching them, I got the feeling I did, like, that you get when you see like a fucking diamond band, you get me? I don't know how to explain that. When you listen to like a band, especially like one that you're like, okay, they're gonna go somewhere, And if they never do, like, it's you're wrong, but you still get that feeling, and it's like, wow, you get that from them, you get that from some other bands.
Yeah, so I remember seeing them like rare area before I started doing shows.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I gave up to like their Instagram. Someone shared it, and I'm like, and their songs sounded like really rough in the beginning, because I mean obviously they were starting off.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, and one of my friends now, like they're not that good. I'm like, what's wrong with a former friend? And I'm like, no, like I see potential in them. And sure enough, they start like blowing up, and I'm like, no, like you can tell like even when the band's kind of rough in the beginning, you can tell like they had that potential.
Yeah. And even though they're in high school, I think that's even cooler, And they're freaking kids, and they're fun. They're freaking crazy. They're fun. They're nuts. I love them. But what you call it? I'm trying to like be in that mentor position where I'm like, I'm helping people out.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I'll get like messages of like, how do I book shows? How do I talk to people? I have this one friend. Their name is Frankie. They're an artist, actually. They're a musician trying to do shows. They have a SoundCloud, and they have a SoundCloud where they upload certain things. And I told them, I was like, hey, you gotta like release these. These are really good songs. You gotta start doing shows, because like indie pop type of stuff. And they just have like very big stage fright. But you gotta like.
Yeah, encourage it. It's one of them should encourage like a lot of the open mics.
Yeah.
Those like really great opportunities.
Yeah.
And people like how you mentioned, like, people have become like so much more sensitive to different types of art forms, sounds.
Yeah.
So lots that goes on.
No, and it's crazy because like I always say this, I was like, I had to start playing guitar live because no one was respecting me. Like when I 2017, when I was like doing shows, I was doing phone plugged in, screaming. No one fucking got it. Started putting on the guitar, and they were like, okay, I kind of get it. They're like, okay, this guy's doing something, And then now I do it, and they're like, okay, it's him. I've become like, okay, the token wild card. Okay, I'll do a show, and I'm like, oh, he's on it. And like, I like doing what I do because like I can be on hardcore shows, I can be on freaking electronic nights, I can be on indie nights, I can be on all those nights,
Yeah.
and kind of fit in,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's really like the best position to be where you can be versatile.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's and I've gotten a lot more selective nowadays with what shows I do, because, I've made those contacts, and I know who to trust and whatnot, and I think that people should like take whatever opportunity they can get, but at the same time, you gotta like learn to say no, and learning, being in a band is making good decisions, being an artist making good decisions, and I've made bad decisions, everyone has, and I think that like the scene now is very good, and I'm not discrediting what it was, because it was good too, there was some good bands, but I feel like where it's at is very like it can compete with like bigger cities. And, you know, there's a reason to come down here. There's a reason to go see us, you know. And I'm actually doing a show in San Antonio next month, so like, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, there's probably people that are like, ooh, you know, alley bands, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, and this is another thing, like, cause I'm mixed race, so like my father's white, like, my mother's Mexican, so like, it's interesting that I don't have to go to another city and pretty much, you know, play the banda, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, no disrespect to people who do, you know, because I do like that type of music. Every once in a while I'll hear it. But, you know, it's crazy that, like, you can be from here and you can do, like, be in a punk band, you can do experimental music, you can make rock music, you can do all that, you know, be a rapper, do indie music. And, you know, I think that's very, it shows a good image for us as people from the RGB.
Yeah.
That, and you know, on the news a lot for negative things, you know, crisis on the border, every fucking Fox News bullshit. Then there's like fentanyl coming in or whatever.
Yeah.
Bullshit. But you know, and I think that like, it is a positive thing, you know. Good music does come from hard times, but at the same time, it doesn't have to. But I think something's been brewing because of it, you know what I mean? And I think it is very competitive, like, and you know, I'm very proud to be part of my scene, you know, I'm very proud to be RGB native, I'm very proud to be where I'm from, and what you call it, I think that I really do like what the future holds, and you know, there's bands being made every day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I have my friend Amy, she's a bassist, and she's in a band called, they just started something Mantis. It's like Madame Mantis or something like that. I'm like, I want to hear them, because it's another all-female group. I'm like, wow, you never see those, like, you know, every once in a while there'll be just one, you know?
Yeah.
I'm glad there's more than one now, you know? And then there's more variety, and there's like people, like, there's like non-binary artists, there's like artists that are making certain type, you know, experimental noise, and, you know, and then like my friend Carlo, who, you know, does Valley Swerve, even doing stuff like that, you know, and then, you know, I'm very proud to call this home, you know, in a sense, and what you call it, I think that it's very cool that I get to be witnessing it, you know, because I mean, the scene's always been like pretty good, you know, for what it is. I mean, there were times when it was just like, them again, you know, where it's like rockers, you know, and, you know, I'm from Harlem, so I'm from San Benito, so like, you know, the bands will come to like Harlingen, and are like, you know, hop shop bands, you know, and no disrespect to hop shop, you know, because like, I do love going there, you know, and I do love like seeing the shows there, you know, it's like an older demographic, you know, and when you're young, it gets kind of, you know, when you're young, you want to listen to a lot of different things, you know, and I remember when I would first like be going to McAllen to see shows, it'd be a whole drive, you know, to go to McAllen to see a show. And I'm glad that like there's a lot of like bands that are coming down here to do shows.
Changed now.
And it's cool, you know. There are bands coming from Brownsville, from McAllen, from others from San Antonio, coming and playing Harlingen.
Yeah, of all places, it's interesting.
Of all places. And you know, it does make sense because it's kind of mid-valley. It's in between and all, and what you call it, and especially how Adiel did Tuna Mansa, how he's been doing shows there. I think it's pretty cool that we have our own thing.
Yeah.
Because you know, Brownsville has its own things, McAllen has its own things, and I would call Harlingen the city between them. You know, like city. You know. Maybe Westaco, maybe Westaco, but Westaco
right now there's not many, from what I know, right, there's not actually that many ladies that are doing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's that food truck park, but you know, that's not really like a venue. It's
Yeah,
just
it's rich entertainment, or, yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I think that like it's cool, you know.
It is, especially like when there's people like they can maybe drive to Brownsville or McAllen, like they're here, so like they can actually come to a show.
Yeah, and you know, Harlingen has has its own scene, you know, with Blam, Jacob Jenny, Young Gill, Chronically Online, all those artists like that. I'm probably missing a few. Can't think of from the top of my head. And then me, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty cool that, you know, there's a collective. And, you know, small, but, you know, it's Sleo Preston, another good group.
Yeah, I think it's good. It'll probably start inspiring more local artists to start.
That's what I want to do, you know. And, you know, when I was starting out, you know, to do a show, you either have to go, you know, do the hop shop and, you know, never started that place. I mean, there's been times when like I would do a show there and, you know, doing what I do, you know, people don't get it, you know, and
yeah, so it's just a different audience.
yeah, I'd have to go to McAllen back when Rio Grande was a thing, Rio Grande Cultura, and we show there, or do a show on that street, you know, 16th, 17th, or
yeah,
whatever. But now, like, you know, there's a spot, there's 2 months,
there's a bunch of stuff here.
there's that freaking, I was telling you earlier about, there's like a barber shop down here.
Yeah.
That's gonna become a venue. They did a show last week with some punk bands, and I didn't get to go. I wanted to go really bad, but I just couldn't because life got in the way, you know. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, because it shows there's a whole demand for entertainment, whether it be bands or anything like that. Yeah, it's a great thing to have. Going on with the thing about mentoring, what kind of advice would you want to give people, like, or like, whether it be younger or older, like, what are you trying to do, like, what would you want to say?
Well, first of all, like for a musician
Yeah.
or an artist in general, just keep doing it. Keep doing it. And you're gonna suck. Just know that there's a period where you gotta just keep doing it and you're gonna listen to other people to an extent, you know? Take criticism, but don't take shit. You got me?
How would you separate between criticism and shit?
You suck type of stuff. Don't listen to that.
Okay.
Don't listen to you suck. Don't listen to you sound like shit. Your music sucks. Listen to the bass is too loud. Listen to that melody sounds off. You know, listen to stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is too fast, and you know, listen to details. Like because you know, if someone is listening and tells you something like that, it shows they care.
Yeah. So basically, the difference between malice and like being like what people call it constructive criticism.
Yeah, it's constructive. And then like there's people who, when they're just generalizing it, they either don't care or don't want to care. You know. And
I would add another category because I would fall under where there's sometimes people that speak from my opinion and like I don't know anything about music theory.
Yeah.
So like I try to like most of my words are like generalized, but like it's hard to explain when you don't understand like the vocabulary to the goodness. So I would add those 3. Well, those 2 are basically like album highlights where the tuning just suck.
Yeah, and what you call it. The thing was with music theory, I feel like because theory is just about like how notes relate to each other.
Yeah.
As a listener, you don't need to know that to know when something sounds happy, when something sounds sad, when something sounds good or bad. It should be used when constructing, but not when you're listening. It only should be used when you're listening, because sometimes it does take the fun out of it. Because like, I mean, I got perfect pitch, and you know, I don't brag about it because like, it's one of those things that's like, it's good for certain things, but at the same time, when something sounds a little bit off, you'll notice it, you know? And I try to me. But yeah, I think it's good to know it, but it's knowing it and knowing what to take from it. You get me? Because you can learn like 3 chords and start a band. You can learn 3 drum patterns, start playing drums. You can learn no bass, yeah. And you can just scream or shout or sing. And yeah, you could start a band. And it could be a good band, but you gotta think about the long term. You're singing, you're shouting.
Yes, the voice.
This lasts so long when you do that, you know? And what you call it? You're smoking, you're drinking,
Everything.
you're drinking, even soda and milk, you know, affect it. You're playing guitar, you're playing drums, you only know those 3 notes, you know, and you know like 2 rhythms. And you can write the same song differently, all you can, but you know that like those limitations, knowing your limitations are your strengths, you know? So know that there's more than just that, you know? But learn to be comfortable when you're in a position when you're stuck with that, you know? Because, you know, there's some people that, you know, they'll make a freaking album on their iPad, or they'll, you know, I challenge myself to make, you know, like going back to full circle.
Yeah.
You know, I was telling you about Koji Kondo. When he was making Ocarina of Time, he had to construct melodies based off of those 5 notes from the ocarina. And he chose to do, it's like a diminished scale or something like that. Where, you know, theory-wise, I'm do a very generalized thing. Do a very generalized thing. It's not the thing that a lot of people would pick, but he picked the right decision because it's the most versatile. And he learned that, you know, you need to know when to be limited and what to create from it. But know that that's not your only option.
Yeah.
Know that it's more than just that, and it's a big world out there, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to listen to, and try your best to listen to everything, even if it sucks. You know, you gotta learn why it sucks. You know, whether it's overproduced, whether it sounds too much like another thing, whether the vocals suck, or you know. But you know, don't just dismiss it because, oh, I don't like country. Oh, I don't like emo music. Oh, I don't like dance music. Because, you know, there is good in everything.
Yeah, there's always a concern.
And like, even like, I mean, there's some genres that I'm like, I don't touch with a fucking 10-foot stick, you know? Like power metal, for instance, which I'm not a very big fan of. A lot of that progressive power metal, whatever. But I can respect it because my thing is, it's a little too cheesy for me. Emo music, same thing. It's a little too whiny for me, but I know why I don't like it. You know, I can make an argument to why I don't like it. Country music, there's some good,
Yeah.
but a lot of it on the radio is like pop music with a twang. You get me? Especially they're putting like trap beats on it. But what I'm not saying is make it a generalization. Oh, it sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it because I don't like it.
Yeah, especially like when you're listening to a bad country song or a bad rock song, like
Yeah.
you should let your first listens ruin the experience.
Yeah, and you should know why you don't like something. You should learn how not to do it, you know? Because, you know, and you know, you can say that about like people who direct movies, they watch bad movies, people who like read bad books, people who, you know, draw, like see bad drawings, you know. Not because, because you know there is a reason for bad art, you know, in that sense for comparison or whatever. but what you call it, you gotta learn why it's bad, why you don't like it, you know? Because it's not that it's bad, it's just not for you. You gotta know why it's not for you and how to make something that is for you and something you can make. Because there's certain things that only certain people can make, you know? And I like to think that like, not all of it, but some of my music is some stuff only I can make, you know? Because like, you know, there's 8 billion people in the world. Obviously not all of them are trying to be musicians, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, because, but anyway, but, you know, everyone has that voice in them. It's learning how to make the voice speak and making it strong and making it, you know, powerful and making it have something to say, you know, because there's also like, you know, rappers, bands that have nothing to say. You know, another thing, read, write, like listen, you know, don't just listen to music, watch movies, watch shows, read books, read the news, read Twitter, like deep dives, watch freaking YouTube videos on subjects that you would never watch, you know? Because there is validity in that. You can learn things from it. Read Wikipedia. There's a lot of free resources out there that you can just read. Pay attention in class. If you're in school, sometimes it does help to actually like just like tune in and be like, oh, so that's who bombed Pearl Harbor, you know, type of shit. You know, like, obviously not that, but you know, you gotta learn how the hot dog's made sometimes, you know? And yeah, you gotta, that's my advice. Like, you know, listen, read everything. Don't take criticism, don't take shit. You know, learn to be okay with sucking for a little bit. You know?
Yeah, because you're gonna learn or something.
Yeah, and you know, that's the hardest thing, especially when you're starting out doing shows. Another thing, learn, you are gonna have shows where 2 people come. You know, you're gonna have a show where no one fucking comes, where you play to the bartender and a dog, you know?
Yeah.
They'll happen, but you know, it just is what it is. Because, you know, and if you've never played to just a bartender and a dog, I low-key wouldn't trust you, but you know, because like there's some people, you know, that's just what they are.
Yeah, it
It just happens, but you know, learn to have those humbling experiences and know when they come, know how to handle it. Because there's some people that are like, they'll go on freaking Facebook or Instagram and be like, no one showed up for me, no, I would have quit this shit, you know.
Yeah, it's probably that's even worse for yourself.
You know, it just, you know, it could be for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect place to like do that. So I don't want to take up too much of your
Yeah.
time. Have a good time.
Yeah.
So like last question I usually ask my guests is what was your favorite part of the podcast?
This one?
Yeah.
Well, I got to ramble for a bit, so you know, I'm share my insight right now because I do think people. I mean, obviously, this is going to be like at the very end of all this, so people who are sticking around listening to this, I like to think that they are getting good advice, you know. So I'm glad that I was on it. I'm glad to have finally formally met you and talked to you. And
Yeah, we had a couple of conversations on
online.
Yeah.
But I'm just like that, you know. Personally, I'm shy. I mean, I don't seem like it, but you know, I'm one of those people. Once you get to know me, spill out my guts.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people think like I talk a lot, like, oh, like I'm actually more introverted, but like,
Yeah.
I guess the podcast, the podcast gives me the appearance like I'm very social. So when people sometimes meet me in real life, like, hey, you're not talking to them, I'm like, oh, it's.
Yeah. I mean, I've been told that like I don't shut up. I've been told like. I'll get written up at work, like, hey, not written up, but you know, they're like, hey, if you're gonna talk to someone, talk to the customer, you know?
Oh, damn.
But you know, yeah, I do talk, but the thing is, it's learning, if you're gonna be like a good talker, you know, you gotta learn what to say, you know? There's some people that just talk out of fucking ass, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, podcasts are usually prone to that, you know? people just talking out of their fucking ass, you know. And you know, like I'm not real. I mean, I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts. I mean, I'll watch clips, you know, here and there. But you know, I mean, my favorite thing about this podcast in particular was that I got to share these insights, and the people who are listening to the very end, I appreciate that because I do ramble, but I'm glad if people are getting it, you know. Because I do have a lot to say, and you know, that's why I like writing, because you know, I do kind of do ramble, but you know, it's more or less on topic and goes in tangents, but you know, that's why I do like writing, because it's more like streamlined to that sense, but you know, appreciate you.
And I appreciate you for coming on. If you want to plug in anything, like your social media, your SoundCloud stuff,
Well, first of all, I'm Pillowsnake. I'm on all the streaming services. New music should be coming pretty soon. When will this be aired?
It usually takes between like a week or 2. Yeah.
Okay, so if this comes out before March 3rd, the Gremlin, I'll be performing there. March 16th, I'll be in San Antonio at a place called Brick at Blue Star. I also want to shout out my girlfriend, Mint Royale, on Instagram. She's in if you follow me on Instagram, Pillowsnake956, you can find her there. She makes jewelry. It really helps out, you know, if you follow her as well as me, 'cause we're like the power couple. You know, I also want to shout out the Valley. You know, shout out Ska, shout out Lamb, shout out a lot of other different artists, you know, Valley Swerve, Young Gill, Disease Freak, and all the good stuff that's coming out from everyone, you know. Shout out you because you know, there has been a wave of people that are like, I'm going to jump on the local artist bandwagon. I'm going to interview people. I've had interviews with people who do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of them do fizzle out. Not because, you know, it's bad or nothing, but, you know, it does get saturated. So, you know, I'm glad to have been a part of this, you know. And I hope whatever audience we do have thinks so too, you know. So shout out you. And shout out Harlingen, shout out the Valley. Shout out myself.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, thank you guys for watching this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.